Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is session number 3 for us. Can you believe it? So listen, welcome once again. You have your hostess with the mostest, your man of the hour who always believes knowledge is power, Professor Derek Allen, chairperson of hospitality management, culinary arts, and baking and pastry arts at Sinclair. But before we can begin, you know what I love to do. I love to beat on my chest like King Kong, the wicked witch is dead, ding dong. Let's go in the kitchen and see what's going on. There's nothing going on in the kitchens today. Because guess what? All the chefs are on break. So shh. I'm going to show you some of my skills while they're on break. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to teach you all how to wow your holiday. You're going to be the talk of the town if you do these simple tips with some fruit. I'm going to have a pineapple today, and I'm going to carve it into a turtle. I got a melon today. I'm going to carve it into a basket. I got some bananas today. I'm going to carve them into some dolphins. And I also have an orange today, and I'm going to show you how to make a great flour. And I also have some apples today, and I'm going to show you how to make some birds. So sit back, relax, tune in, and pay attention. Well, as I told you, ladies and gentlemen, all the chefs are gone here in college because it's Christmas break. So I get to get in the kitchens and I get to play around. So the first thing that we want to do today is how do you get kids to eat fruit? Well, you got to make fruit fun. Or how do you make your holiday parties pop? Well, you have to know how to decorate with fruit. So today, I'm going to show you some simple things. All right? This first segment is I'm going to show you how to do something simple just with a banana. This is how I get kids to eat fruit. Now, look at this banana. As you're looking at this banana, what animal does it remind you of? All right, I'll give you a hint. A dolphin. Exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paring knife. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the label off the banana. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this banana in half. So what I've done now is I've started the process of making the dolphin. So what I've done is I just made a series of cuts, and so as you can see, I clipped off the banana stem itself. And so you already see the perfect shape of the dolphin. So what I'll do is I'll make a slight cut in the center of the stem, because that is the mouth of the dolphin. Then I'll take my knife and I'll twist just ever so slightly. And now what I've done is I've made an eye. So, well, what's the dolphin going to eat? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to take this grape and I'm going to make this grape into a fish. And now the dolphin actually has a fish in its mouth. Now, what do I like to do with the other piece of the banana? Well, what I do with the other piece of the banana is I'll actually peel it. And what I want to make sure that you understand is that my hands have been thoroughly washed. But if you're going to serve something like this, especially to kids, I recommend that you use gloves. And then what I do on a plate is I just take the banana rings and I put them around the dolphin like so. And the best part is you get to eat this, is I take some caramel and drizzle it over And trust me, kids love it. There you have it. The banana turned into a dolphin. Now, how do you make a holiday dinner pop, but also get kids to eat more fruit? Well, as we were talking about before, you got to make fruit fun. Now, what I'm going to show you is this apple right here. This apple right here is round. But what kind of animal does it look like? Well, it looks like a bird to me. So I'm going to actually show you how to carve this apple into a bird. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this paring knife and I'm going to find a spot on the apple that doesn't look too appealing. Now, normally it's usually a lighter side because the sun doesn't hit certain sides of an apple. But in this case, this apple actually has a small little slit in it. So I'm actually going to use that portion as my base. So I'm going to use a cut probably about the size, a little bit bigger than a silver dollar, because I'm going to use that to make the head. So this piece is actually going to be used for later in terms to make the head. So as I turn the apple, now I have a nice flat space to really work with. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a series of V-cuts is all I'm going to do until I get to the core of this apple. So I'm going to make a very small V-cut here and here. And I really must stress the importance of actually having a very sharp knife. Because when you have a sharp knife, you don't have to do it very hard. Because if you notice, this knife is going in very easily to make these cuts. And I usually like to make somewhere around maybe 7 to 8 cuts, because that gives the apple a really nice feathery feel. And so if you were doing, like, say for instance, some type of holiday dinner, and as you were doing a holiday dinner and you wanted to do several of these and place them around the dinner, it looks really, really, really cool. So I'll make this last cut, and then I'll show you how we place it all together. So I just made a series of cuts. So now I'll take out any seeds that I have. So I see that there's just a couple of seeds. I'll get those because sometimes, there we go. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these in the apple. So I'll show you here. So there's a larger cut to make a nice base. Here's another larger cut. Another one of my smaller cuts. Another smaller cut. Another smaller cut. And the last small cut, or the first cut that I made. And so therefore, these represent the feathers. Now, I make a slight hole just by twisting the knife in the apple, because I'm going to have to put my head here. And it's okay that fell. I'll put it back on in a moment. So I made a slight hole there because that is where the head of the apple is going to be. And as you see how easy it is to put them back together. And so what I'm going to do with the head is I'm going to make just a few cuts. So I cut here and I cut there, and then I'm going to make a circle cut around. And that's why I said it's important to make sure that you have a sharp knife. And there's a beak that I just made, and so I'll come back in with the beak. Now, remember I made a hole here in the apple. So what I'm going to do, slit. So therefore, I can stick that into the hole of the apple. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. An apple bird. Gentlemen, how do you get the girl? Well, you get the girl through flowers. How do you get kids to eat? Well, you get the kids to eat through flowers. You're like, what? How do you make a great statement on a cheese ball? Through a flower. Well, I'm going to use a different knife here. This is called a V-cut knife. And in this V-cut knife, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a flower out of this orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make just a series of cuts all the way around this orange until I can split it in half. And then I'm going to show you how to make a flower out of it. Are you ready? Let's begin. So therefore, what we do is we find just a center piece. And so I found a center point. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back and forth all the way around through this orange. Until I completely boy, that orange smells so good. So now that I'm finished, see how easy that comes apart? So now to make the flour, all I do is I take a little bit of celery stalk. I take my paring knife and I make a small hole, and I just use that by twisting the knife. I'll take my celery piece, cut off the end there, and then I will make a sharp V cut in the celery there, and another sharp V cut in the celery here, so I have a point. And I stick it up through the hole, and there it is. I have a flower. So once again, I can hand this to a little girl and say, here, is that my orange? Yes, that's my orange. Or I can actually set this up in a very nice stiff cheese ball, and it will stand straight up. So this is a great way to either get your parties to pop, or you can get kids to eat more fruit. So now that we've completed the apple into this bird, what does every bird need? Well, every bird needs a nest. So what I have is I have a KitchenAid, just a KitchenAid apple slicer. And this KitchenAid apple slicer is going to help us to make the nest. So I'll just center a red apple here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice straight through it. Move my bird out of the way. And so therefore, you already see, ladies and gentlemen, where I'm going with this. So what I want to do is I want to take this core out. So I've got the core out. And I'm going to come out, getting all the apple slices out. And so I've got all the apple slices around. I've got the core out. I'll move this over here. And guess what? The bird is actually sitting in its nest. And once again, to get kids to eat more fruit, all I got to do is just put just a little bit of caramel on this. And A, you can either make your party pop, or B, we get kids to eat more fruit. And there you have it, the apple bird and the nest. What we are going to do now is we're going to take this millet. And this millet, if you notice, it's a very small millet. And the reason why is because melons are out of season right now, because right now we're in the middle of December. And so, but the same concept still applies on me making a melon basket. I'm going to show you two different processes to actually make your basket pop for a party or to get kids to eat more fruit. Now, the first thing I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for, well, what is the dead side of the melon? Well, you may ask yourself, well, what's the dead side of the melon? Well, you see this light piece? Because when the melons grow, they grow on the ground. And so therefore, there's a piece that doesn't get that much sunlight, which doesn't turn it nice and green like so. So therefore, I want to make sure that I use that side, and that's going to be the back of my melon. So what I want to do is I have to cut a base for the melon, and the melon has to stand straight. So I'm going to use my old trusty dusty Mercer chef knife to help me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a straight edge cut, and normally I'm standing up when I do this. So now I've got a nice flat space on the melon, and it's not going to roll around on me. So I'll take the piece that I cut and I'll set it over here. So now what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you what this melon looks like if I do a smooth cut on the melon or if I did a V cut on the melon. I personally like the V cut on the watermelon because it looks the best. However, if you're in a hurry, then you may want to use the straight cut. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to figure out and make our handle. So when I make the handle, I have to look for the best spot. And you also want to make sure that you make your handle very thick, because if you make a thin handle, it can break on you, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make just a very nice cut, and I'm going to go down to about halfway of the melon, because I'm going to need the other half of the melon to actually be the basket portion. So if I'm really in a hurry, then therefore what I'm going to save this piece because I'm going to do something with it, and I'll show you what to do with it to make the basket later. So I'll set that here, is that this is giving me one piece of my handle. Okay, or I can use this V knife, and I'm going to show you the difference between the look. This is a smooth cut, and then I'm going to show you the V cut. I can also do this for my handle portion. See, so that's the difference between both sides. So this one is a little more fancy, so I like using the V-cut knife, but then this one is actually a more smoother side. So therefore, well, how do I make the basket? Well, I need something different now. What I'm going to do is normally I would use my chef knife to dig in, but because this melon is kind of a miniature melon, I'll just start out using a small paring knife. And so what I'll do is I use the paring knife, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut around through the handle portion. And so trust me, this melon is not going to waste. Partly, because I'm eating some of it, and then the other is now I'm going to channel it out. So this is called a hook knife or a channel knife. And so what it does is it allows me to actually scoop out the melon. And it actually lets me get it in very large chunks. And so, there's a few things I can do now. When I have very large pieces of the milling, what I can do is I can take a scoop and I can stick it right inside like so, turn it, and I can make milling balls. And I can put them right back into milling. I can also, which I've already pre-washed some grapes, is I can take some grapes. Now, what I've done is I've taken most of the stem leaves off of the strawberries. So I can also put strawberries in here. If I wanted to put some kiwi in here, I could also put some kiwi in there. I'll give it some green color. But the beautiful thing about this is this will either make your party pop, it will get kids to eat more fruit, but if you are a big kid like me, it's going to allow me to eat some fruit too as well. And this, trust me, is some good milling. Got my approval. Now, we've saved the best for last. So, this pineapple will truly make a party pop, but it will also make kids' eyes light up. And then they also want to eat, guess what? More fruit. What we're going to do with this pineapple is we're actually going to make it into a turtle. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I said a turtle. So, I'm going to walk you through the processes as we close out today. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stem of the pineapple and I'm going to make a twist, and I'm just going to twist it off. I need this, and I need to find a really good stem here, because this stem here is actually going to be my tail. But when I'm taking this piece out of the pineapple, this is the part that is actually going to be the head of my pineapple. Now with this one, I need a few friends to help me out. And so I've got some small wooden skewers here because I want to make sure that I make precise cuts, okay? So the first cuts that I'm going to make is I'm going to make the legs of the pineapple. And in making the legs of the pineapple, all we're going to do is it's going to be like making some doors. So picture doors in this one. So I'm not going to go past that marker right there. I'm not going to go past that marker. Actually, that marker right there. I don't want to go past this marker right here. And I don't want to go past this marker right here. Now, you remember I said that we're going to open some doors here. So I'm going to start out with my paring knife. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slit right down the middle here. But I'm not going past this point. Then I'm going to turn my knife ever so slightly, and I'm going to cut more, not going past that point. I'm going to take my knife back out, and I can see the slit that I made before down to here, but this time I'm going to turn it in the opposite direction. And I'm not going to go past this point. So now I need to come up to the top. So I can still see the first slit that I made, which is right here. Now I need to go to the top of the melon. I'm sorry, top of the pineapple. And I'm going to cut across. But I'm not going to go past that point. So you can already see the first leg opening up already. I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to the other side. And I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll take my points out. Need to go in just a little bit more with this one. So when I open this up, I've got legs. Okay? So these are my two front legs. So at this point, I need to make my hind legs. So I'm going to do the same process. If you can see these puddles here, this pineapple is juicy. Look at all the juices coming out of that pineapple. So now I've got my hind legs. So if you notice, my hind legs are just a little bit thicker than my front legs. All right? Now, there's a cutaway piece that I need. And I need a head for this pineapple. And this is where I'm going to get the head from. I'm actually going to get the head from the belly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a rectangle. That's all I'm going to do. So I'll go inside the pineapple. I'm going to turn my knife again. Go down just a tad. I'm going to turn my knife again. And I'm going to come back across. And I'm going to turn my knife again. And I'm going to come up. So now what I have is I have that rectangle piece that I showed you, which was right here. I just needed to come across this one more time. So now I'm going to pop it out. Come on. Sometimes it can be a little stiff. And so I just need my knife just to lift up just a little bit to help it. So sometimes you have to just make a deeper cut. And this is a boning knife. So when I need to make a deeper cut, I'll just use my boning knife because it'll get a little deeper for me to actually be able to get the piece out that I need. So it's coming. You just have to massage it a little bit. There it is. And honestly, that is really the only piece that I actually need out of it. Because this is going to be on the bottom and people won't see it. So because this piece is actually going to help me to make the head on the pineapple. So here's the last finishing touch. So I've got my quarter legs. I've got my front legs. And so now I need to do the shell. I don't want to use a long knife because the way I do it in this process, I don't want to poke through and poke my hand. So I'm going to use my paring knife. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the knife inside and I'm going to set the pineapple down so it's flat. And I'm just going to actually just make a shell cutting through the pineapple. And so you have to be very careful with this one because this is where you can actually break the pineapple and you won't have a good turtle because you broke it in half. So I'll open it up just a little bit more, very slightly. And I'm using my fingers. So I could use the knife, but I don't need it at this point. And now, let me make one last cut. And now I'm through. Here's my front legs and my hind legs. And so now I've got the pieces that I need for the completion of my project. Some other people, and this is just preference and choice, is they actually take as much pineapple off of this as possible, because there's still a lot of pineapple in there that I can eat. And then they'll squeeze the shell a little bit so you can actually squeeze the shell inside the pineapple, and then you can also still see that it is a turtle. Now, for the last two pieces, remember I told you that I got to do the head and I have to do the tail. So, this was a piece of the stem that I pulled off earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a very small V cut, and a very small V cut so it looks like that. And I'm actually just going to go to the back of the pineapple, and I'm going to use, I can use either knife. So I'm going to take the knife and I'm just going to stick it inside of the pineapple, and I'm just going to twist it just a little bit. And as you can see, I'm opening up a hole. And I'm going to do that on top as well. And so I've opened up a hole in the pineapple, just enough. I'm going to make my tail just a little bit smaller. Make that just a little bit more thin. A little more thin. And now I've got the tail of the pineapple. And so to get to the front, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife, and I don't want to break it though, but what I'm going to do is I am just going to take my knife and I'm going to put it in a circular motion, because I need to create a hole to actually make the head. So, I've got this piece of the pineapple that I cut from underneath. I'm going to take that and I'm going to cut a piece off. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to make a V cut. I'm going to cut it in half. And I'll make one V cut. So, cut the pineapple this way. Cut the pineapple that way. And I stick this right inside. Let me get you in there. This pineapple's kind of slippery today. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You've got a turtle that is going to make your party pop, or it's going to allow kids to eat more fruit. So, there you have it. We've had a lot of fun today. The chefs are gone home because it's winter break. So remember, shh, don't tell them that I was in here doing this with you. But I would tell you it was a lot of fun. And that pineapple is so sweet. Love you. Happy holidays.